And so he began to write about humanism and the individualistic ideas of a person. And he is considered the father of humanism. If we go ahead and take a look at the next picture, we've got humanism. And here is what humanism kind of looks at. It celebrated the individual. It looked at a specific person rather than as a community, rather as the ideas of the church, but it celebrated a person being unique and individualistic. It stimulated the study, though, of Greek and Roman literature and culture. So humanism helped promote the study of history when it came to the Greek and the Romans. So people would look back 15 to 2,000 years before them and study the Greek and Roman culture to better understand them, but also to bring it back to life and to make it a part of their own life. Just like how we might look at cultures or times in the past and bring back similar hairstyles or clothing or literature. And so again, looking back at history helps promote learning and growth. And so we see that in humanism. And humanism was sponsored and supported by the wealthy patrons because humanism and the ideas of being individualistic also prompted trade and travel. And this often made those who were merchants wealthy. And so patrons of the banks and merchants often promoted humanism. Let's look at the next slide. We got the Northern Renaissance. With the rise of trade, travel, and literacy, the Italian Renaissance spread to Northern Europe. Right? It didn't just stay in Italy, but it spread throughout Northern Europe. And this map shows the most northern parts of Europe. But it came all the way up into here, and it happened 50 to 100 years after Italy. But it still had its own art and literature. It had different changes because it adopted the cultures of where it was in Northern Europe. Just like we see in the United States, the West Coast, right? We have different styles, different cultures than those on the East Coast or in the South. Same with the Renaissance in Europe. Similar ideas were started, but we can see difference in paintings, different in writing. And so Northern Renaissance had similarities, but also some of their uniqueness as well. And one thing we see on this next slide is Northern Renaissance writers. We're going to see Erasmus, who wrote The Praise of Folly in 1511. And Erasmus was very critical of the church, the Catholic Church during this time, and often wrote about the corruption that took place in the Catholic Church. He was one of the first people to start calling out the church for the negativity and the negative practices that the Catholic Church had done during this time period. And he became a catalyst for the Protestant Reformation. Even before Martin Luther, we see Erasmus take a huge step in promoting change within the Catholic Church. And so this was Erasmus. The next one is Sir Thomas More. And he wrote a book on utopia. And in this book, it depicted a world with a perfect social, legal, and political system where people live in harmony all together as one, and they don't have to fight or argue, that things all worked out for the best for everyone. And so he was a leading humanist in the Northern Renaissance, Sir Thomas More. And the last slide we see is the Renaissance ideas. Here are all the different main ideas throughout the Renaissance that helped it grow and become so popular and just bring a change to Europe. We can see that trade created a wealthy class who became patrons of the arts. We see classicalism, the ideas of looking back and studying the Greeks and the Romans, both their achievements and their writings. There is also the idea of questioning spirit. People were now able to question what was happening. They questioned governmental rules. They questioned the church, but it gave a freedom of choice that wasn't seen in the medieval time period before this. It also sparked intellectual and artistic creativity. Beforehand, artwork and learning was very basic and very on the same path. Whereas now there was creativity. People can go off and do their own ways of drawing and painting and building. People could begin learning new ideas that wasn't what the church wanted to learn or wasn't crafted by the church. And so there is these new ideas. Secularism began to happen, right? The belief and the following that wasn't the church's teachings, giving people the ideas and options of thinking on their own other than following just religion. And then we have humanism, or the glorification of people and the human reason, right? Recognizing that humans are creative and often different, and celebrating that and giving them the freedoms to make their own choices and glorifying the human. And then lastly, individualism, the idea that you are an individual and you are important and you can do your own thing. You didn't have to follow everyone else. So these are all the main ideas of the Renaissance. So here we go.